Chapter 811. The envoys from the Empire of Qin would never have thought of this. How could they have known that they would run into Luo Qingtong, the saintly princess, when they came to the Ling family? Luo Qingtong's title as the saintly princess was only known to a few high-ranking officials. People like them had no right to know about it. Rumble. As the guards of the great Qin sacred dynasty stepped through the air, Luo Qingtong's eyes hardened, and she leaped into the air. Miss Qingtong. Seeing that Luo Qingtong was about to face the martial spirit realm experts, Master Ling became anxious. He could not allow anything to happen to Luo Qingtong. Right at this time, he suddenly saw Old Man Lanyue's figure flying over from not far away. He was immediately overjoyed and hurriedly called out, "Old Man Lanyue, quick! Come and stop this. The people from the Empire of Qin are going to harm Miss Qingtong." He could not reveal Luo Qingtong's identity in front of so many people. Fortunately, Master Lanyue also knew that Luo Qingtong was the evil Dr. Ghost Eye, so there was no need to hide it. What? Master Lanyue had only come to see why the Ling family was having a conflict with the people from the Empire of Qin. Master Lanyue was shocked when he heard Master Ling's words. Who else could be called Miss Qingtong? It was Luo Qingtong. At the front, the envoys who had summoned the elite guards of the great Qin sacred dynasty to escort the edict heard old Master Ling asking old Master Lan Yu for help, and they all laughed coldly. You want to ask for help? You probably don't know what kind of crime it is to seize a decree by force. Let me tell you, no matter who comes today, this girl will die. Not only that, but your Ling family will also be exterminated. When the other families rise to power, the memorial tablets of the Tianyu imperial family will also be moved into the heavenly temple. The envoy sneered. This is the consequence of the Ling family's stubbornness. Before he could finish his words, the martial spirit realm experts who had surrounded Luo Qingtong were all sent flying by the pressure of the Empire of Qin's empire. What? Seeing this, the proud voice of the envoy from the Empire of Qin was stuck in his throat. Luo Qingtong had sent so many of them flying, so it was still acceptable. But now, she was facing the elite guards from the Empire of Qin's empire. Although these experts were only in the martial spirit realm, they could easily kill an ordinary sage realm expert. He was actually forced back by the other party? How strong was this girl? Could it be that she had already surpassed the saint realm at such a young age? That was impossible. How could there be such a terrifying genius in the world? Even if there was, it was impossible for her to appear in such a small empire like the Tianyu Empire. Not to mention in such an inconspicuous family like the Ling family. If there was such a powerful expert in the Ling family, they wouldn't have to rely on the evil Dr. Ghost Eye to get the throne. As the crowd thought this, their faces were filled with shock and bewilderment as they looked at the peerless beauty standing proudly with the great Qin's decree in her hand. As for the disciples of the Ling family, their faces were filled with shock as they covered their mouths tightly, suppressing the cries of surprise that were coming out of their mouths. This was too terrifying. Luo Qingtong was so powerful. A group of martial spirit realm experts. Chapter 812. Xiao Manling, on the other hand, was in a daze. She had even forgotten her shame and humiliation. Luo Qingtong's power was beyond her imagination. Even the children of the Blue Moon Commandery's royal family could not compare to such a charming young lady, let alone her. Was such a person really the legitimate daughter of a marquis from a low-level country? How could this be? How could this be? Xiao Manling screamed in her heart. However, no matter how much she screamed, she could not change the fact in front of her. The envoy from the Empire of Qin was completely shocked. However, he quickly regained his composure and gritted his teeth. Don't be so smug. Tell me your name if you dare. Don't think you can be arrogant just because you have some strength. What you stole was the decree of the sacred dynasty. If you know what's good for you, surrender immediately. Otherwise, when the army of the sacred dynasty mobilizes, you won't be able to escape death. The dignity of the sacred dynasty is inviolable. Is that so? You also know that the dignity of the sacred dynasty is inviolable? As soon as the envoy finished speaking, Grand Tutor Zhang's voice suddenly rang out from the other side. He looked at the young lady standing proudly in the middle of the field, his face full of admiration. Luo family's Qing Tong was indeed worthy of her reputation. He did not expect to see her here. When Luo Qingtong used the power of the decree of the Empire of Qin Sacred Dynasty to suppress the elite guards of the Empire of Qin Sacred Dynasty, Grand Tutor Jiang had already guessed her identity. What's more, Grandfather Ling's words were so loud just now. Miss Qing Tong. She had the name of Qing Tong and could use the power of the decree of the Empire of Qin Sacred Dynasty. Who else could it be other than the legitimate daughter of the Luo family, Luo Qingtong, who had been conferred the title of Princess of the Great Chu Sacred Dynasty? He had more or less guessed the ins and outs of the matter from the envoy's words, and was immediately furious. Who? The envoy from the Empire of Qin Sacred Dynasty was about to shout at who dared to interrupt him. However, when he turned around and saw Grand Tutor Jiang, his eyes instantly popped out. Jiang! 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 He looked at the old man who appeared in front of him in shock. What shocked him even more was the other side of the old man. The side of the old man's side, who was dressed in ordinary clothes. Crown Prince. The envoy looked like he was about to faint. Grand Tutor Jiang and the Crown Prince. How could these two gods appear in the small capital of the Tianyu Empire? However, the envoy could not be bothered to think of the matter. He looked at Grand Tutor Jiang and hurriedly said, Grand Tutor, listen to me. The Ling family of the Tianyu Empire is so arrogant and disrespectful to us. This girl even snatched the decree of the sacred dynasty that we brought with us. Grand Tutor, the dignity of the holy dynasty cannot be violated. That is A. B. The envoy was drenched in cold sweat. He did not dare to expose the identity of the crown prince of the Empire of Qin, so he could only start with Grand Tutor Jiang. Old Master Ling was indignant when he saw the envoy distorting the truth and framing them. However, he was stopped by Old Master Lanyue. Old Master Lanyue shook his head at him and told him to just watch the show. Master Lanyue knew the reason why Grand Tutor Jiang had come here. He had come here for Luo Qingtong. Now the main character was right in front of him. Chapter 813. Oh, you said that they were disrespectful to you. And this young girl even tried to steal the decree of the Empire of Qin? Grand Tutor Jiang said slowly as he looked at the envoy with a cold expression. That's right. Grand Tutor, they are too audacious. They have no respect for the dynasty at all. Hearing the hidden coldness in his words, the envoy hurriedly chimed in. While he heaved a sigh of relief, he also felt extremely proud. If he could complete the mission given by his family and get to know Grand Tutor Jiang and the Crown Prince, that would be great. Especially since the Crown Prince was out on a tour. It was the perfect time for them to get close to him. Such an opportunity might not come again in the future. Thinking of this, the envoy's expression became even more indignant. Grand Tutor, such people should be punished severely. Grand Tutor Jiang, please take action and arrest them with your supreme power. Since Grand Tutor Jiang was an important minister of the Empire of Qin and the Crown Prince's Grand Tutor, his strength was naturally not weak. Otherwise, how could he bear the respect of others? His strength was also above the Saint Realm, almost beyond the scope of the Saint Realm. Even in the Empire of Qin, he was one of the few powerhouses who could be compared to him. The envoy asked him to take action for two reasons. First, he complimented his strength. Second, he wanted to vent his anger and make Luo Qingtong unable to escape. So what if the other party's strength was tyrannical and could ignore the suppression of the dynasty's fate on the decree? If Grand Tutor Jiang were to make a move, he would be able to easily take back the decree and even beat her to the bottom of the valley. When that time came, he wanted this young girl and the Ling family to regret what they had just done. Old Master Lanyue. Hearing his words, Old Master Ling's heart clenched, and he could not hold it in any longer. He did not know why Old Master Lanyue was still unwilling to speak. The person standing opposite him was Luo Qingtong, the evil physician Ghost Eye. She was in trouble. What should he do? The wrath of the Blackfield's underworld venerable would definitely burn the heavens. However, just as he was panicking, he heard a loud bang. The envoy was sent flying like a kite with a broken string. Then he landed heavily on the ground. Then came Grand Tutor Zhang's furious voice. Arrest! Don't say that Miss Luo was just being disrespectful to you. Even if she wants to humiliate you and kill you, you can only accept it. Seizing the sacred dynasty's decree? Could it be that the decree was not given to the Ling family by the sacred dynasty? Grand Tutor Zhang's face was filled with anger. Who was Luo Qingtong? Even important ministers like them had to be courteous in front of the great Chu sacred princess. Now these people dared to be impudent in front of the other party, and even dared to make a false accusation in front of him. He must have eaten a bear's heart and leopard's guts. Grand Tutor? The envoy was stunned by Grand Tutor Zhang's slap. He spat out blood as he looked at Grand Tutor Zhang and the crown prince of the Empire of Qin in confusion. What was going on? Shouldn't Grand Tutor Zhang protect them and the dignity of the Empire of Qin? Why did he slap his own face in front of outsiders? One had to know that they were representing the Holy Dynasty to deliver the imperial edict. The envoy was dumbfounded. He was also certain that Grand Tutor Zhang would help him and the others. That was why he was the first to complain. They were here to represent the face of the Holy Dynasty. Chapter 8:14. Wait, who was the eldest daughter of the Luo clan? Could it be the girl in front of him? Just as the envoy was thinking, he saw Grand Tutor Zhang. He was a senior official of 3 dynasties, and was one of the few experts in the Empire of Qin. He stepped forward and bowed to Luo Qingtong. Miss Qingtong, I'm sorry to have startled you. I will punish this group of people severely, and investigate this matter thoroughly. I will give you and the Ling clan an explanation. Grand Tutor Zhang did not call out Luo Qingtong's name. Very few people knew about this matter. It was a secret of the Chu sacred dynasty, so there was no need to spread it in front of others. However, Luo Qingtong's prestige as the Chu sacred princess was not to be underestimated. In the entire Chu sacred dynasty, Empress Dowager Yin Shi and that transcendent saint of the Chu imperial family were her backing. Insulting Luo Qingtong was equivalent to insulting the Chu sacred dynasty. What? Seeing Grand Tutor Zhang's actions, everyone present was stunned. The envoy stopped vomiting blood. He looked at the scene in front of him with a shocked and ashen face. He did not know who Luo Qingtong was, and what kind of strength she had to be able to make Grand Tutor Zhang treat her with such respect and reverence. After all, this was Grand Tutor Zhang, the Crown Prince's Grand Tutor, an important official of 3 dynasties, and one of the rare experts of the Chu sacred dynasty. Everyone from the Ling family was completely dumbfounded. Although they did not know Grand Tutor Zhang's identity, they heard the envoy call him Grand Tutor Zhang with such respect and flattery. How could they not know that he was a super expert from the Empire of Qin? He had a high position and power. But now, this person that even the envoy had to treat with respect was bowing deeply to Luo Qingtong and asking for forgiveness. He even said that he would give her and the Ling clan an explanation. The peerless expert and important official of the Empire of Qin said that he would give them an explanation? Qiu Manling's face had already turned ghastly pale. Others might not know who Grand Tutor Zhang was, but how could she not know? An elder of 3 dynasties, an important minister of the Holy Dynasty. Even the Commandery Prince of Blue Moon Commandery had to treat Grand Tutor Zhang as a nephew. He had to be respectful, and did not dare to neglect him. Not to mention the Qiu family. For example, her father, the head of the Qiu family, didn't even have the qualifications to meet Grand Tutor Zhang. But now, he was respectfully bowing in front of Luo Qingtong. His attitude was extremely cautious, as if he was facing an emperor. Oh my God! Luo Qingtong, what was her identity? Old Master Ling was also completely stunned. Why would Grand Tutor Zhang be so courteous? He even apologized to Luo Qingtong. Could it be that he also knew Luo Qingtong's true identity, Evil Dr. Ghost Eye? But even if it was the evil Dr. Ghost Eye, he shouldn't have been able to make this old man, who was obviously an important minister of the Holy Dynasty, bow so respectfully and protect him, right? Unless it was the underworld venerable himself. Grandfather Ling didn't know Luo Qingtong's identity. She was now the holy conferred princess of Great Chu. In terms of status, Grand Tutor Jiang indeed had to bow before her. Luo Qingtang looked at Grand Tutor Jiang indifferently and didn't say a word. At this moment, the elegant young man standing behind her spoke. "Don't worry, Miss Qingtang. This matter will be thoroughly investigated. As an elder of 3 dynasties, Grand Tutor Jiang will definitely not let you be neglected. Anyone who insults the holy conferred princess will die. Not only that, the family behind her will not be spared either." Chapter 8:15. If Grand Tutor Jiang said that there was still room for negotiation. If the crown prince said so, then they were really finished. Not only were they finished, but their families were also finished. Oh my God. Just because of Yuan Ma's words, just to please him. What did they do wrong? Who did they offend this time? This young girl. Even His Highness the Crown Prince's attitude towards her was so good. The envoy, who thought that Grand Tutor Jiang was just standing up for his old friend, rolled his eyes and fainted. As for Luo Qingtang, she finally nodded after receiving the other party's promise. She handed the decree in her hand to the eldest son of the Ling family, Ling Tianhan and Ling Yuer's father. "Uncle Ling, go ahead and make the arrangements." With this decree, the Ling family would be justified in inheriting the throne of the Tianyu Empire. All right, Marquis Ling was stunned, but he quickly regained his senses and took the decree in front of Grand Tutor Jiang and the others. He was still rejoicing in his heart. If not for Luo Qingtang, the Ling family would have been in deep trouble. They had thought wrongly before, thinking that with the evil Dr. Ghost Eye behind them, the Empire of Qin would allow them to inherit the throne. They had guessed correctly, but they did not expect that the King of Hell would be easier to deal with than the little demons. The Empire of Qin would not stop them from inheriting the throne of the Tianyu Empire. But the envoy who came to deliver the decree could do something. As long as they were accused of being disrespectful to the Empire of Qin, they could be eradicated in minutes. This way, even if Luo Qingtang pursued the matter, they could find a few scapegoats. It was too scary. Marquis Ling's forehead was covered in cold sweat when he thought of the dangerous situation just now. Their Ling family had almost been humiliated to death, and their entire family had been wiped out. It was all thanks to Miss Qingtang. He was drenched in cold sweat as he took the decree with him and prepared to leave. Just at this moment, the young man behind Grand Tutor Jiang suddenly said, "Wait, Marquis Ling," and everyone else's eyes narrowed. His heart skipped a beat as he looked at the young man who had suddenly stepped forward. He didn't know what the other party wanted to do. The latter looked at him with a smile and turned to Grand Tutor Jiang. "Grand Tutor, is the Tianyu Empire about to be promoted to a commandery?" As soon as he said that, everyone in the Ling family was surprised and happy at the same time. This young man's words, what did he mean? They looked at each other in disbelief. The young man said to Grand Tutor Jiang with a smile, "Since the Tianyu Empire is about to be promoted to a commandery, why don't you give them a hand? Recommending them to the sacred dynasty as commanderies can be considered as an apology for this matter." When the young man said this, everyone in the Ling family was so surprised that they almost fainted. In order for an empire to be promoted to a commandery, it would have to have a Saint Realm expert on its side and be conferred a title by the sacred dynasty. Either that, or there was a Saint Realm expert from the Holy Dynasty as a guide, and the other party's status couldn't be low. But now, this young man wanted Grand Tutor Jiang to recommend him to the Tianyu Empire. Once the other party agreed, the Tianyu Empire would be promoted to a Holy Dynasty commandery. Chapter 8:16. This was a great gift. Previously, the royal family of Tianyu had schemed to control Luo Qingtang and use her for their own purposes, so that they could be promoted to a commandery. Now this opportunity was right in front of the Ling family. Okay. Grand Tutor Jiang was stunned for a moment before he realized that the crown prince wanted to compensate Luo Qingtang and the Ling family. He immediately agreed. Hearing this, the Ling family was indescribably happy. The royal family of Tianyu had schemed to promote to a commandery, but they had achieved it so easily. Grandfather Ling looked at Luo Qingtang excitedly. He was more far-sighted than the other members of the Ling family. Why would Grand Tutor Jiang help them? Of course, it was because of Luo Qingtang. Otherwise, the Ling family would be insignificant compared to the Holy Dynasty. Just look at how arrogant the envoy was when he came to announce the edict. Their Ling family was nothing in the Holy Dynasty. Any small family could easily bully them. But now, the Ling family was going to be promoted to a commandery. Even if it was the lowest level commandery, it was because of Luo Qingtong's kindness. Otherwise, how could they be promoted to a commandery on their own? Looking at the 1,000 years of history of the royal family of Tianyu, it was clear how difficult it was to be promoted to a commandery. Without social connections and power, it was impossible to achieve. However, Qiu Manling was stupefied. She still couldn't believe what was happening in front of her. It was as unbelievable as the Arabian Nights. Just a moment ago, she was arrogant and superior in front of the Ling family. She was also superior to Luo Qingtong. But now, the Ling family had become the royal family of the Holy Dynasty Commandery. Moreover, they were the disciples of Grand Tutor Jiang. Based on this point alone, even if the Tianyu Empire was promoted to the lowest level commandery, its status was much higher than that of a marquis-level commandery. And Blue Moon Commandery was only a king-level commandery. The Qiu family had to bow and scrape in front of the Ling family. And all this, it was all brought by Luo Qingtong. She had just humiliated this girl in the main hall and questioned her status. How dare she pester the Ling family? Qiu Manling raised her head and looked at the young lady standing on the square. Her expression was indifferent from the start, and her figure was like a beautiful flame that illuminated the surroundings. Qiu Manling's eyes rolled back, and she finally fainted. Before she fainted, she heard a low muffled voice coming from beside her. "Oh my God! Just now Luo Qingtong gave us pills." When the group of Ling family youths saw Luo Qingtong standing in the square, someone suddenly recalled the jade bottle that the latter had given them previously and took it out immediately. After taking a look, they all suppressed their emotions and exclaimed in a low voice, "It's an elixir that's... Oh my God! With this pill, my strength will be able to increase a little." "Yes, me too. I've been stuck at the martial general realm for a long time, but now I should be able to use the power of this pill to break through." The group of people exclaimed in low voices. Hearing these voices, Qiu Manling thought of the jade bottles that she had dismissed as trash. What was inside was actually an elixir, and they were elixirs that could purify one's talent and enhance one's physique. Chapter 817. After dealing with the envoys, Luo Qingtong, Elder Lan Yue, Grand Tutor Jiang, and the others returned to the main hall of Tianyu Imperial Palace. Elder Ling didn't dare to disturb them, so he asked someone to bring in the tea. Even he didn't enter the hall. It wasn't a place he could stay. "Princess Shengming, you're really different from the rest." Grand Tutor Jiang stroked his beard and smiled. "I went to the Luo clan to deliver the gifts from the sacred dynasty. I thought I wouldn't have the chance to meet you. I didn't expect you to come back and meet me here." There were no outsiders here, so Grand Tutor Jiang naturally called Luo Qingtong by her title. Ahem. Luo Qingtong coughed softly. If she hadn't tricked Yi Qianxian, she would still be in Chu in the Black Field. There were plenty of ingredients for refining medicine there. Why would she need to come to the Tianyu Empire to borrow them? But it just so happened that she came back. Otherwise, she wouldn't even know if the Ling clan was humiliated or destroyed. How would she explain it to Ling Tianhan and Ling Yuer? After all, it was because of her that the Ling clan and the Tianyu Imperial Palace had such a grudge. With that thought, Luo Qingtong's eyes sharpened. I hope Grand Tutor Jiang can give me a perfect explanation for this. I want to know who's behind the envoys, who's behind them, and who's related to them. UNMO better not have anything to do with this. Otherwise, don't blame me for being impolite. Luo Qingtong's eyes were cold. She had thought that since he didn't know about the Tianyu Imperial Palace's persecution of the Luo clan, she would let it go. But if he insisted on avenging the Tianyu Imperial Palace, then don't blame her for completely eliminating him. Don't worry, Princess Xingning. I'll get to the bottom of this, Grand Tutor Jiang said. Then he turned to the young man beside him. Your Highness, what do you think? Of course. How dare you use the name of the Holy Dynasty to commit such atrocities? Such behavior should be severely punished. The young man's face was indifferent. In his words, He didn't say that he wanted to stand up for Luo Qingtong, but the meaning behind his words was clear. These words were extremely clever. Luo Qingtong couldn't help but look at the other party a few more times. Your Highness. Luo Qingtong had guessed that the other party's identity was unusual when he said that he wanted Grand Tutor Jiang to recommend the Tianyu Empire to become the Holy Dynasty Commandery. Now, according to Grand Tutor Jiang's words, the other party was actually a member of the royal family of the Sacred Dynasty. To be able to make Grand Tutor Jiang, an elder who had served 3 emperors, address him as Your Highness and act so respectfully, a name suddenly popped into Luo Qingtong's mind: Crown Prince of the Empire of Qin. Sure enough, the other party nodded at her, and then said with a smile, Ma Chenyi, Crown Prince of the Empire of Qin. The young man's words were very casual and amiable. Although he introduced himself as the Crown Prince, there was no sense of arrogance. On the contrary, it made people feel as if they were bathing in the spring breeze, and very comfortable. Luo Qingtong looked at the young man in surprise. She didn't expect him to really be the Crown Prince of the Empire of Qin. Old Master Lan Yue was also very surprised. He didn't expect the elegant young man beside Grand Tutor Jiang to be the Crown Prince of the Empire of Qin. It was said that the Crown Prince of the Empire of Qin was elegant and gentlemanly. Now it seemed that it was true. Chapter 8:18. I came out with the Grand Tutor to relax. I didn't expect to meet Princess Xingning here. I'm really lucky. Ma Chenyi smiled. He really didn't expect to meet Luo Qingtong here. Logically speaking, she should be in Great Chu now. This encounter was truly a coincidence. Luo Qingtong also smiled. Yes, it's really a coincidence. She just wanted to congratulate the Ling family and take some herbs to refine medicine. Otherwise, she would have returned to Great Chu long ago. She wouldn't have met him here. Just as they were chatting, Grandfather Ling walked in respectfully from outside. Miss Qingtong, these are the herbs you asked for. After Old Master Ling left, he immediately swept through the entire Tianyu royal family and the Ling family's treasures. He sent over all the medicinal herbs that Luo Qingtong needed and could use. Luo Qingtong was the savior of the Ling family this time. If not for Luo Qingtong, the Ling family would have met with disaster. No matter what Luo Qingtong wanted, it wouldn't be too much. Furthermore, she only wanted some herbs. Moreover, Grandfather Ling had just heard about Luo Qingtong's gift from the younger generation. He immediately felt grateful to Luo Qingtong. Perhaps from Luo Qingtong's point of view, she saved the Ling family because of her responsibility. After all, the Ling family only rose to power because she wanted to go against the Tianyu imperial family. That was why they were targeted by UNMO and suffered today's disaster. However, Grandfather Ling could see it clearly. Since the Ling family had such ambitions, they deserved to suffer such a calamity. Otherwise, they could have rejected Luo Qingtong's invitation to go against the Tianyu imperial family. Therefore, Luo Qingtong saved them out of morality and kindness. This was a huge favor to the Ling family. Grandfather Ling had already made up his mind. After this incident, he would immediately write a letter to Ling Tianhan and Ling Yue, telling them to follow Luo Qingtong's orders regardless of life or death. The Ling family swore to follow Miss Qingtong to death. Princess Xingning needs herbs. Seeing the herbs that Grandfather Ling sent over, Grand Tutor Jiang was slightly surprised. Then he quickly said, I forgot about this. This is the Sacred Dynasty's gift to Your Highness, to congratulate Your Highness on becoming the Sacred Princess of the Great Chu. He took out a spatial storage ring as he spoke. Under Grandfather Ling's shocked gaze, he handed the spatial ring to Luo Qingtong. There are all kinds of rare herbs and resources inside. Maybe they can help you. At the same time, this spatial artifact as a token of the Empire of Qin. When Grand Tutor Jiang said this, he couldn't help but look a little proud. A Sumeru spatial spirit tool was extremely rare and precious within the true Spill continent. Among the 4 great Holy Dynasty, the Empire Holy Dynasty was able to produce spatial artifacts. Although it was quite different from the Sumeru spatial spirit tools that had been passed down since ancient times, and the space of the spirit tools was extremely small, only 1 to 2 to 3 square meters. But it was enough for them to be proud. After all, if others wanted such a storage artifact, they could only come to the Empire of Qin Holy Dynasty. Spatial artifact? Grandfather Lanyue was surprised. Is this the masterpiece of your Holy Dynasty's Grandmaster Mi? Seeing Grand Tutor Jiang nod, he immediately understood. Chapter 819. If this was a Simura spatial spiritual artifact, it was no wonder that the people of the Empire of Qin were so generous as to give it to Luo Qingtang. This would not only give them face, but also show the power of the Empire of Qin. But the people of the Empire of Qin probably didn't expect Luo Qingtang to be the evil Dr. Ghost Eye of the Black Field. With how much the Black Field and Ming Zun value her, how could she not have a Simura spatial spiritual artifact? Old Master Lanyue thought to himself. However, even if Luo Qingtang had a Simura spatial spiritual artifact, it didn't mean that the people around her had one as well. The Empire of Qin was still very smart. While Elder Yin Yu was thinking about this, Elder Ling, who was next to him, was already stunned by what he had heard. Princess Xingning? Luo Qingtang was actually Princess Xingning? The one who had caused a stir recently, and had already spread throughout the 4 great sacred dynasties. The one who had defeated Great Yang's first princess, Princess Feng Yuan, and was personally conferred the title of Princess Xingning by the Transcendent Saint of Great Chu. My God, no wonder Luo Qingtang wasn't afraid of the envoys from the Empire of Qin at all. She didn't even reveal her identity as the evil Dr. Ghost Eye, yet those envoys and the Empire of Qin's elite guards were already helpless against her. No wonder Grand Tutor Jiang was so polite and respectful to her. It turned out that Luo Qingtang was Princess Xingning. Master Ling's mouth was wide open. Just as his eyes widened, and he didn't know what to say, Luo Qingtang raised her hand and took the Simura spatial spiritual artifact. Then she smiled. She used her spiritual energy to investigate the inside, and found that this was a Simura spatial spiritual artifact. It was just a fake Simura spatial spiritual artifact. That's right. It couldn't even be considered a fake Simura spatial spiritual artifact. It could only be called a fake Simura spatial spiritual artifact. This Simura spatial spirit artifact used a special type of spatial spirit stone to open up a space inside using refining methods. The space opened in this way also had the effect of storing things, but it was very unstable. After being opened and closed for a period of time, the space inside would easily collapse, and the things inside would be lost. It was on a completely different level from the Simura spatial spirit tool, refined by the inscription masters. However, this was still a good storage method, if one ignored the space factor that could easily collapse. Luo Qingtang thought about it, and her spirit imprinted a circle in it, stabilizing the space. She tossed the contents into her own useless ring, before handing the Simura spatial spiritual tool to Grandfather Ling, who was standing beside her, and said, "All right. Grandpa Ling, I'm sorry for what happened today. I haven't given you a gift for the succession of the Ling family. Now that the Tianyu Empire has become a commandery, this space spiritual device is a gift for you." Luo Qingtang accepted the elixir prepared by Grandfather Ling, and was prepared to express her gratitude. The Simura spatial spiritual device, given by the Holy Dynasty of the Empire of Qin, was a good gift for her. With Luo Qingtang's current inscription skills, she could easily carve and refine a space storage ring of more than 10 square meters. However, this Simura spatial spiritual device, given by the Holy Dynasty of the Empire of Qin, had a different meaning. With this Simura spatial spiritual artifact, the Ling family would not be so helpless when envoys bullied them in the future. What Luo Qingtang gave Old Master Ling was not so much a space ring. Chapter 820. Grand Tutor Jiang and the others could see the meaning behind Luo Qingtang's actions, and their opinion of the Ling family increased. To be able to receive Luo Qingtang's protection, the Ling family's misfortune this time was a blessing in disguise. When Grandfather Ling received the Simura spatial artifact from Luo Qingtang, he was completely stupefied. Then, he quickly reacted and hurriedly knelt down before Luo Qingtang. He felt that the luckiest thing that had happened to his family in this lifetime was meeting Luo Qingtong and receiving her protection and support. Thank you, Miss Qingtong. From now on, our Ling family will follow Miss Qingtong without hesitation, even if it means death. We will share honor and disgrace, life and death. He knelt on the ground and swore to Luo Qingtong. The reason why they didn't use the title of Princess Xingming previously was that regardless of whether Luo Qingtong was Princess Xingming or not, they would still follow her to death. Grandfather Ling, quickly get up. Luo Qingtong helped him up. The latter's eyes were brimming with tears. After bidding farewell to Grand Tutor Jiang and the others, he hurriedly left the main hall. He knew what he was doing. There were some things that he might not be able to hear. Moreover, he still had to go back and inform the entire family of his loyalty to Luo Qingtong. Qiu Manling's incident could not happen again. Their Ling family definitely could not be disrespectful to Luo Qingtong. If such a situation happened again, they would be directly crippled and expelled from the family. Their Ling family did not have such a descendant. If the other party was not convinced and felt that they were not part of the Ling family, fine. Don't ever visit our Ling family again. From now on, they would sever all ties and have nothing to do with each other. Thinking this, Grandfather Ling's expression was very cold. Princess Xingming is really clear about gratitude and grudges. She knows how to repay kindness. Ma Qingyi had been watching from the side, his eyes serene. After Grandfather Ling left, he slowly said, I heard that Princess obtained the corpse of Great Yong's seventh prince. Furthermore, she has already extracted the power of bloodline and fate from it. I have a spiritual herb here called the 7-leaf blood refining lotus. It has an excellent effect on improving bloodline compatibility and fusion. Take it as a congratulatory gift from me to the princess. As he spoke, he took out a jade box from his bosom. The nearly transparent lid of the jade box reflected a blood-red fiery spirit lotus. The leaves on it were like fire and blood, looking extremely beautiful and gorgeous. At first glance, one could tell that it was not an ordinary spirit medicine. Heaven-rank spirit medicine. Old Master Yinyu exclaimed, this gift from the Crown Prince of the Empire of Qin was extraordinarily valuable. However, what Luo Qingtong paid attention to was not the grade of the medicine, but the effect of the medicine. It could promote bloodline fusion and increase compatibility. If it was used to refine pills for grandfather, wouldn't it be better and faster for grandfather to absorb the power of bloodline and fate from Great Yong's seventh prince? Luo Qingtong's eyes lit up. Good. Then I thank your highness the crown prince for his gift. Luo Qingtong could find heaven-rank herbs if she wanted, but this heaven-rank herb that could promote bloodline fusion and increase compatibility was not something that Luo Qingtong could find immediately. Ma Qingye's gift could be said to have reached the bottom of her heart. Many thanks, your highness the crown prince. It's fine. I also have a method on how to better absorb and fuse bloodline power. If the princess needs it, you can take it as well. Ma Qingyi smiled as he took out another item in his hand. He was originally a descendant of the Empire of Qin's imperial family, and he was also an outstanding talent. Chapter 821. He had already delivered the item to her. How could Luo Qingtong not want it? She put away the 7-leaf blood refining lotus and the technique, then looked at him meaningfully. Your highness, I'll remember this favor. I'll definitely repay it in the future. For Luo Qingtong, she didn't deserve it. Although it was Ma Qingyi who gave it to her, Luo Qingtong still owed him a favor by accepting it. She would definitely find a chance to repay it in the future. Ma Qingyi smiled but didn't say anything. After Luo Qingtong left Tianyu imperial capital with the things and Elder Lanyue also left, Grand Tutor Jiang looked at Ma Qingyi with a worried expression. Your highness, these two things, the bloodline refinement technique aside, it was something all descendants of the imperial family who inherited the bloodline had. However, the crown prince had spent a lot of effort to obtain the 7-leaf blood refining lotus. For this reason, he had expended a lot of effort and lost a lot of experts to obtain this 7-leaf blood refining lotus. Your highness, that 7-leaf blood refining lotus is extremely important to you. Before Grand Tutor Jiang could finish, Ma Qingyi stopped him. It's fine. I know my own situation very well. Even if I really bring the 7-leaf blood refining lotus to the Black Domain and find the evil Dr. Ghost Eye, I might not be able to last for long. Ma Qingyi lowered his head as he spoke. Through a technique unique to the imperial family of the Empire of Qin, he saw the dragon-shaped providence in his body, lying there on the verge of death. Its 2 horns were broken, and its 5 claws were useless. It was a sign of death, a dying dragon. As the crown prince of the great Qin Empire, the dragon-shaped destiny that appeared from the power of Mo Qinya's bloodline actually showed signs of dying. Black lines twined around the dragon-shaped providence, polluting and extracting the power of providence within. The dragon-shaped providence wailed, and its power of providence became thinner and thinner. When this dragon-shaped luck completely fell, it would be the time when Mo Qinya's true dragon luck would be completely cut off. At that time, he would no longer be the legitimate crown prince of the Empire of Qin. He would be an ordinary descendant of the imperial family. Looking at the dragon of providence, Ma Qingye's elegant eyes narrowed slightly. He was the one who inherited the strongest bloodline of the imperial family of the Empire of Qin from birth. From the moment he was born, his position as the crown prince was established. He was taught personally by the emperor and assisted by the ministers of the 3 dynasties. He was proficient in both political and martial arts. He was born to be a ruler. However, in these years, his providence and bloodline power of providence had been constantly draining. The true dragon providence, which had already grown strong, was constantly being devoured. He had searched everywhere, but couldn't find the problem's problem. However, it must have something to do with his good younger brother, who suddenly rose to power. Ever since Ma Qingye's position as the crown prince was confirmed, no one in the imperial family of the Empire of Qin could compete with him. After all, there was only one true dragon. The power of providence from other bloodlines could not be compared to it. However, this situation had completely changed since his good younger brother returned a few years ago. 2 dragons fighting. His opponent's providence and bloodline power were not inferior to his. Moreover, his providence had transformed from a flood dragon into a dragon. Chapter 822. Over the years, Ma Qingye's true dragon power had been constantly declining, while the other party had been growing stronger with each passing day. Ma Qingye would never believe that there was no connection between the two, but he couldn't find out where the problem was. He could only rely on those spiritual medicines that strengthened and stabilized his bloodline power to maintain the vitality of his true dragon power. But this only treated the symptoms and not the root cause. He had to grasp the root cause to completely end this situation. He had followed Grand Tutor Jiang out this time partly for this reason. Luo Qingtong had obtained the corpse of Great Yang's 7th prince and extracted the bloodline power and power of destiny from it, causing Great Yang's destiny to be damaged. This matter could be hidden from others, but it couldn't be hidden from the royal family of the 4 dynasties. Although it was very likely that the Supreme of the Black Field had contributed to this. But since Luo Qingtong was able to invite the Supreme of the Black Field, then befriending her would only be beneficial to Ma Qingye. He was already in this state, what else could he not lose? If he could invite the Supreme of the Black Field, through Luo Qingtong, to examine the problem with his bloodline, that would naturally be for the best. If he couldn't, befriending that young girl would be extremely fortunate. Ma Qingye thought of the moment when he had followed Grand Tutor Jiang into the square of Tianyu Imperial Palace. The young girl stood in the center of the crowd like a flourishing flame, blooming like a dazzling red lotus. Absolutely beautiful and domineering. Overbearing and domineering. He really didn't expect that the young girl, who had been conferred the title of Great Chu's princess, would be so charming. Truly like a jade pearl, shining brightly when closed. He clasped his hands behind his back, his elegant eyes filled with admiration and admiration. Even his gaze couldn't help but stop for such a young girl. That UNMO actually disdained and looked down on her? What kind of eyesight did he have? With Ma Qingye's education and upbringing, he couldn't say the word blind. But he really did feel that way. If he had such a fiancée, he wouldn't even look at other women. Thinking of what he knew about UNMO in the Empire of Qin Holy Dynasty, Ma Qingyi snorted and said to Grand Tutor Jiang, "Grand Tutor, let's go back." In addition, this time, the envoy came to the Tianyu Empire to deliver the imperial edict, but he disobeyed the imperial edict. This must be thoroughly investigated. Uproot all the aristocratic families and forces that are involved in this matter. Eradicate them all. No matter who comes to plead for leniency, just say that it's an order from me. At this moment, Ma Qingyi's elegant and gentle aura completely retreated, revealing the aura of a high and mighty king. Over the years, because his bloodline power and power of providence had been taken away, he had gradually fallen from grace in the imperial court. But no matter how crouching a dragon was, it was still a dragon. He was the dragon of the Empire of Qin, the future crown prince of the Holy Dynasty. Unless the sage emperor personally issued a decree, his words were irrefutable. No one could stop him. Even if the sage emperor personally issued a decree, as long as Ma Qingyi insisted, he could resist it without harming the foundation of the empire. Moreover, Luo Qingtong gave him such a good excuse to act this time, humiliating Great Chu's princess. Let's see if he didn't ruthlessly pull out his good little brother's claws and teeth when he returned this time. How much he could escape would depend on the other party's ability. As for UNMO, Ma Qingyi's eyes narrowed slightly. Chapter 823. Tell our people to protect them. We don't need to go overboard. We just need to make sure they're fine. Presumably, Luo Qingtong would be very willing to go back and teach those blind people a lesson. He wouldn't interfere in this matter. Moreover, letting Ling Tianhan and the others suffer a little would be beneficial to their growth. Ma Qingyi had learned the way of the emperor since he was young, so he naturally knew what was the best course of action. As for Yuanma, he really didn't know what kind of expression he would have when he found out that the fiancé he looked down on so much turned out to be such a precious pearl. What an idiot! Even if such a treasure was in his hands, he would still miss it. Ma Qingyi shook his head and left the Tianyu Empire with Grand Tutor Jiang, returning to the Empire of Qin Holy Dynasty. After all, he had already met Luo Qingtong's people, so there was no need for him to go to the Luo family. After leaving the Tianyu Empire, Luo Qingtong returned to the Heavenly Evil Valley and began to refine the elixir for Grandfather Luo. With the 7-leaf blood refining lotus given by Ma Qingyi and the herbs in the gifts from the Empire of Qin Holy Dynasty, it was more than enough for her to refine the bloodline elixir. After the 7-leaf blood refining lotus was refined into an elixir, its medicinal efficacy would be increased by 200%. In addition to Luo Qingtong's medicine inscription technique, the medicinal efficacy would be even stronger. At that time, Grandfather Luo wouldn't have to worry about the bloodline fusion. Swoosh! Luo Qingtong threw the 7-leaf blood refining lotus and the other herbs into the square immortal cauldron to refine the elixir. This cauldron could automatically control the fire, so Luo Qingtong didn't have to worry about controlling it. Compared to the cauldron she used before, this one was many times better. Luo Qingtong was very grateful to the heavenly doctor, who came to find trouble. If the other party could bring a treasure like the square immortal cauldron every time, it wouldn't matter even if he came to find trouble a few more times. She really didn't mind the trouble. Little Pig clicked his tongue in wonder when he saw Luo Qingtong refining the bloodline pill. This 7-leaf blood refining lotus is indeed a rare elixir, and it can improve the fusion and compatibility of bloodline power. It should be useful for the crown prince of the Empire of Qin, right? Why did he give it to you? Little Pig propped up his cheeks and said, "He probably has something to ask of me." Luo Qingtong raised her eyebrows. She thought of the scene she saw when Ma Qingyi gave her the medicine. The art of stealing fate? Someone was actually plundering Ma Qingyi's fate and bloodline power. No wonder when she saw Ma Qingyi, she felt that there was something wrong with his aura. However, Luo Qingtong didn't want to get involved in the internal disputes of the royal family of the Empire of Qin. This kind of luck-seizing technique could only be done by people of the same bloodline. Ma Qingyi's draconic energy was weak, so someone else's draconic energy was strong. In this kind of battle for the throne, her identity as Luo Qingtong and Great Chu's conferred princess was too sensitive and special. It wasn't good for her to get involved. Luo Qingtong also didn't want to bring trouble to grandfather Luo and Empress Dowager Yanxi. Moreover, her relationship with Ma Chenyi wasn't close enough for her to expose her identity. Therefore, she didn't treat him at that time. When the time came, she would use the identity of evil Dr. Ghost Eyes to treat him. It could be considered as returning the favor. After all, didn't he give her the medicine for the person behind her, who could refine Great Yong's 7th prince's bloodline power? However, he didn't expect that person to be her. Moreover, the 7th prince's bloodline power wasn't extracted by her, but by the square immortal cauldron. Although Luo Qingtong couldn't extract the bloodline power, she still had a way to deal with the art of stealing fate. It could only be said that Ma Chenyi found the right person. Moreover, the way he gave the medicine was quite suitable for her taste. Chapter 824. Before Luo Qingtong left, she had already used her mental power to set up a protective barrier around the Ma Chenyi. During this period of time, the other party's power of destiny and bloodline would not be plundered. Luo Qingtong concentrated on refining pills. When she threw the power of destiny and bloodline that she had plundered from Great Yong's 7th prince into the square immortal cauldron and refined it together with the spiritual herbs, the wailing of the dragon of destiny above Great Yong's ancestral temple became even louder. Bang! In Great Yong's imperial palace, Feng Wuan was ruthlessly slapped and instantly fell to the ground. This is all because of you. The Saint Transcendence of Great Yong's imperial family was alarmed, and his hand that was pointing at Feng Wuan was trembling. Great Yong's face had been completely thrown away by this proud descendant of his. Now Great Yong's dragon of destiny was still wailing. If not for the fact that Feng Wuan was the most outstanding member of the imperial family in this generation, this Saint Transcendence of Great Yong's imperial family would have strangled her to death. Only the heavens knew how he felt when he woke up and saw the dragon of destiny wailing. This was simply a disgrace to Great Yong. He clearly knew who did it, but he could not find the other party to settle the score. Vile spawn, do you know your wrongs? He looked at Feng Wuan and said furiously, Yuana knows her wrongs. I beg great-grandfather to calm down. Feng Wuan knelt on the ground. Her entire face swelled up, and blood continuously flowed from the corner of her lips. That slap from the Saint Transcendence of Great Yong's imperial family had directly broken the corner of her lips. However, Feng Wuan could not make a sound. The fate of the nation was stolen, and her bloodline was lost. It was all her fault, and she had no way to defend herself. Thinking of the person who had caused her to face such a situation and humiliation, Feng Wuan's palm was about to be crushed by her own hands. Luo Qingtong, evil Dr. Ghost Eye, just you wait. Her heart was filled with hatred. The transcendent saint from Great Yong berated her for half a day and punished her to kneel for several hours before letting her go. However, this was also to make her go back home and reflect on her mistakes. Furthermore, Feng Wuan's saint title had been revoked. Committing such a mistake, your saint title is temporarily revoked. Since when have your achievements been able to offset your mistakes this time? I'll return this title to you later. The transcendent saint from Great Yong said as he retracted the multicolored light within Feng Wuan's body that represented Great Yong's fate. Feeling the loss of the multicolored light in his body, Feng Wuan felt even more hatred in his heart. She clenched her teeth. Ever since she had taken control of Great Yong's affairs at the age of 12, she had never suffered such a great loss or humiliation. In all of Great Yong, who would not be proud of her? But now, he was being reprimanded and humiliated like this, and even his saint title was being stripped away. As for Luo Qingtong, that girl from an inferior country that she did not care about, she had become the saint princess of Great Chu in one leap. When the two of them meet in the future, the other party's status would be above hers, unless she could reclaim her saint title before that happened. However, how could this be easy? Great Chu had already completely cut off all paths, and they could no longer have any ideas. The only ones left were Great Qi and the Empire of Qin. However, Great Qi was too far away, and only the strongest country, the Empire of Qin, was left. Only by taking action against them would there be a possibility of reclaiming her saint title? Chapter 825. But Luo Qingtong was now the holy princess of Great Chu. Feng Wuan couldn't let herself lose to Luo Qingtong. She had already lost to the evil Dr. Ghost Eye. She couldn't be suppressed by Luo Qingtong again. Thinking of this, Feng Wuan's eyes were hazy. Before returning to Great Yong, she would never have thought that she would be forced to this point by a person she looked down on. Luo Qingtong, evil Dr. Ghost Eye. These two bitches. Feng Yuan covered his swollen face that was as big as a steamed bun, and instantly slammed his palm on the square table in front of him. At this moment, a faintly discernible connection quickly touched her. Feeling the source of the touch, Feng Yuan's expression changed slightly. She raised her hand and set up a boundary around her body. Then she changed her voice with a cold expression and said in a proud and low voice, "King Wu of the Empire of Qin, what's the matter?" In an extremely luxurious and noble mansion, in the holy capital of the Empire of Qin, a young man with a gloomy and arrogant face, after reprimanding the people around him, said discontentedly to the air, "The connection between Ma Chenyi and I has been cut off. Heavenly Doctor, didn't you say that this method of seizing fate is absolutely foolproof? No one will find any clues? What's going on now?" Mo Qinshuan's expression was very sullen. He had been unable to absorb Ma Chenyi's qi of the true dragon for several days. Could it be that the other party had already sensed something and cut off the connection between the two of them? If so, he had to make plans early. Mo Qinshian was not afraid of anything else, but he was afraid that Ma Chenyi's qi of the true dragon would recover. At that time, wouldn't he be beaten back to his original state? Thinking of this, Mo Qinshuan's eyes were even more gloomy and vicious. "This is impossible." Feng Wuan's voice was cold, and the meaning of her words was very arrogant. "The method of seizing fate. Only I can use it, and no one can see through it. Even if you can see through it, it's impossible to break it. Otherwise, we would have been discovered when we attacked Ma Chenyi. How is it possible that you are still here safely, and have plundered his fate and bloodline power to such an extent?" Her words calmed Mo Qinshian down. In fact, he did not believe that Ma Chenyi had broken the luck-seizing technique. If that was the case, the other party would have already made a move on him. But, even if he was seen through, it didn't matter. Mo Qinshian sneered. He looked at the Providence dragon in his body, which had grown to a very powerful level, and his face was full of pride. He had already absorbed almost all of Ma Chenyi's luck and bloodline power. Unless Ma Chenyi had the ability to reverse and retrieve the bloodline power, and the power of providence. Otherwise, with the current power of karmic luck and bloodline, he wouldn't be able to withstand Yang Kai's attacks at all. Mo Qinshian would definitely rise to the top. The Empire of Qin would be his sooner or later. But if that was the case, it would be a little troublesome for him to deal with Ma Chenyi. After all, he was the only real dragon in the Empire of Qin, the crown prince of the Holy Dynasty. Even if he was a dying dragon, he was not so easy to deal with. Mo Qinshian only hoped that he could absorb all of karmic luck and bloodline power, so that karmic luck would not be able to turn the situation around and fight back. In this way, he could really sit back and relax. Chapter 826. Mo Chenyi had indeed obtained a 7-leaf blood refining lotus recently. Perhaps it was because of the 7-leaf blood refining lotus that he was unable to absorb the power of providence from his bloodline. However, as long as the art of seizing fate was not broken, the power of the 7-leaf blood lotus would be consumed sooner or later. At that time, wouldn't Ma Chenyi be obedient and let him absorb it? Thinking of this, Mo Qinshian suddenly laughed and cut off the connection with Feng Wuan. Suddenly cut off, Feng Wuan's face turned ugly. But soon, the expression on her face recovered and she sneered. Mo Qinshian was a hidden chess piece that she had arranged in the Empire of Qin. The Empire of Qin was powerful, and the crown prince of the Empire of Qin was born to be the emperor. It was almost unshakable. If Feng Wuan wanted to unify the 4 dynasties, she had to do something to him. Therefore, she found Mo Qinshian and helped him fight for the throne with Ma Chenyi in the name of the Heavenly Doctor. Feng Wuan used her art of seizing fate on Mo Chunxian and Ma Chunyi, so that Mo Chunxian, who had almost no bloodline power, could constantly absorb Ma Chunyi's dragon-shaped fate to grow. Until now, he was the king of martial arts in the Empire of Qin, and could compete with Ma Chunyi, the crown prince. This art of seizing fate was something that Feng Wuan could barely do by using her special pupils and the bloodline power of the Great Yong royal family. When she was in Great Yong's imperial family, she had relied on this to suck dry the bloodline power and power of providence of those who had the ability to be her opponents. That was how she had achieved her current status as Great Yong's #1 imperial princess. In the whole Great Yong, except for her, there was no one else with such outstanding ability, because the bloodline power and the power of providence of those people had all been absorbed by her. Because of this, she became a stunning talent. Now, she was using the same technique to help Mo Chunxian absorb Ma Chunyi's fate and bloodline power. She did not believe that anyone could see through it and break it. After all, even a transcendent sage wouldn't be able to see through it. Of course, if one's strength was far above this, it was very likely that one would be able to see it clearly. For example, Underworld Paragon. Thinking of Yi Qianxian, Feng Wuan's heart was filled with an indescribable love and hatred. She hated that this man didn't even look at her. Otherwise, he would definitely discover that he was more suitable for him than the evil Dr. Ghost Eye. She loved this man's peerless handsomeness and shocking strength. The Empire of Qin this time, I will not let it go. Evil Dr. Ghost Eye Luo Qingtong, just you wait. Once she controlled the Empire of Qin, she would break through to the saint stage. At that time, she would let everyone know who was the most suitable person to stand beside Mingzun. Luo Qingtong did not know of Feng Wuan's ambition. She was now wholeheartedly refining the bloodline pill in her hand. Great Yong's fate power entered the cauldron, and a rosy glow shot up to the sky. In an instant a pill was formed. Luo Qingtong held it in her hand, and felt the rich medicinal power surging within. There was even a faint dragon-shaped pattern in it, and he immediately smiled. All right. Success. It's time to go back to Great Chu. Luo Qingtong thought of the man in the black field. She didn't know if his anger had completely dissipated. Luo Qingtong really missed Yi Qianxian. Stroking the 9 phoenix ring in her hand, Luo Qingtong smiled wickedly. Maybe it's time to go back and give that man a surprise. Chapter 827. Great Chu, the main city of the Black Field. Yi Qianxian sat on the seat of honor with a cold expression, handling the documents sent from the main city. The low pressure around him was very cold. That woman left for so many days, and she didn't come back. Yi Qianxian's eyes were cold. He thought that after Luo Shaoqi left that day, Luo Qingtong would come back. But he didn't expect that woman to be delayed for so many days. And she didn't come back. With that thought in mind, Yi Qianren's aura grew colder and colder, causing the experts from the Black Domain, who were reporting the news from the main city, and the other main cities of the Black Domain to feel like crying. The Lord's aura was getting more and more terrifying. They looked at Beiqing and Feng Yu for help. The two of them stood behind Yi Qianxian like door gods, and turned a blind eye to their gazes. What a joke! Who could cure the Lord's cold aura except for the demonic doctor? Unless the demonic doctor came back immediately and appeared in front of the Lord, they could only accept it obediently. These people were considered good, and they could leave after they finished reporting. The people who followed the Lord were the most miserable, weren't they? Just as the two of them were thinking, they suddenly heard a voice reporting from outside. My lord, the demonic doctor sent you a gift. A gift. Yi Qianren raised his head and looked ahead, only to see 2 experts from the Black region carrying a huge box as they walked in. My lord, this is a gift from the demonic doctor. She asked that only you can open it. One of the Black Field experts said respectfully. Yi Qianren's eyes narrowed as she looked at the huge box. She didn't know what that woman was doing. Could it be that this was the wedding gift she had prepared for Old Master Luo and Empress Dowager Yanxi? Could it be that this woman didn't want to come back? Thinking of this, Yi Qianren's brows furrowed tightly. What else did she say? He looked at the 2 Black Field experts who carried the box in. The two of them shook their heads and said, "No. Sir Evil Doctor only said that he wanted you to open this box personally. He said that it was a special surprise for you." That woman. Yi Qianxian gritted his teeth. It would be a very special surprise. If he opened the box and saw a pile of gifts, and a note that the woman was not going to come back. With that thought in mind, Yi Qianxian gritted his teeth even harder. That woman. If he had known earlier, he wouldn't have let her go. They should have captured him as soon as possible, so that she wouldn't run away without a trace. Yi Qianxian couldn't be blamed for worrying about personal gains and losses. But in this world, Luo Qingtong was the only woman he could not catch no matter how hard he tried. He had a feeling that if he didn't pay attention, the other party would disappear from his life. In the past, Yi Qianxian might not have cared. After all, he did not need another woman in his life. But now, if there was no Luo Qingtong, Yi Qianxian would definitely go crazy. He looked at the huge box and waved his hand, saying, "All of you leave." Yes. The group of powerhouses from the dark domain accepted the order and retreated from the hall. Bei Qing and Feng Yu tactfully left as well. After all, who knew what the evil doctor had given their master? The two of them were really scared of being tricked. What if the master exploded again? With that thought, they ran faster than rabbits. They were afraid that their master would change his mind and call them back. Chapter 828. He raised his hand. Swoosh. The lid of the box was suddenly lifted. Then a figure suddenly rushed out from inside. "Lala. Yi Qianxian, I'm back. Are you surprised? Are you surprised?" Luo Qingtong smiled wickedly and hugged the man's neck tightly. Just like when she was still Luo Xiaoqi, she hung on him and looked at the man with smiling eyes. In the next second, she kissed the man on the lips. Yi Qianren stood in the middle of the hall and looked at the young girl, who had rushed out of the box with a sweet smile on her face. His eyes were so cold that it was terrifying. In the next second, he grabbed the girl's shoulders and lifted her up. Then he kissed her deeply. Luo Qingtong raised her head and endured the man's intense plundering. Her hands circled around Yi Qianxian's back and felt the scorching heat under the man's robe. The smile in her eyes was indescribably charming. "It seems that the Lord missed me a lot?" After the kiss, Luo Qingtong licked her lips that were almost swollen from the kiss. Her tender red tongue brushed past her snow-white teeth and crimson lips. It was indescribably evil and enchanting. This seductress. Yi Qianxian looked at Luo Qingtong with dark eyes. He suddenly got up and carried the woman in his arms back to the bedroom. However, he had only taken a few steps when he felt a weight in his arms. He looked down and saw Luo Qingtong nestled in his arms. Her head was drooping and leaning on his chest. Her small hands were holding onto his clothes, and she was sleeping soundly. This woman. Yi Qianren fiercely gritted her teeth. However, when her gaze landed on the young girl's sweet sleeping face, her gaze softened. "Humph. If only you were so obedient." Yi Qianxian snorted. He lowered his head and caressed the girl's pink, petal-like lips for a moment. Then, he strode back to the bedroom with her in his arms. However, the eagerness and passion from before had calmed down. It's good that this woman is back. As for the other matters, there was no hurry. Yi Qianxian didn't want to admit that the moment Luo Qingtong emerged from the box, his heart was violently moved. It was as if a lost treasure had returned to his embrace. This woman had already become an inseparable part of his life. It was just his return, but it already made him so happy that he almost couldn't control himself. However, this woman was completely different from other women. If he wanted to win her heart completely, he couldn't rush it. Luo Qingtong slept soundly. It had been a long time since she had slept so peacefully and without worry. In the past, she would always maintain a certain level of vigilance when she slept. But this time, she really didn't wake up. She completely lost consciousness in Yi Qianxian's arms. Perhaps it was because she subconsciously felt that Yi Qianxian's side was the safest place. No one could hurt her in front of this man. When Luo Qingtong woke up, she didn't know what time it was. The sky outside was slightly dark, so she couldn't tell whether it was evening or early morning. Luo Qingtong woke up with a yawn. She raised her eyes and saw the handsome face of the man beside her. Yi Qianxian's eyes were slightly closed. Under the faint light by the window, his face looked like a god who had fallen to the mortal world. Noble, handsome, otherworldly, exceptional. Chapter 829. However, her face was just close to the man. The latter's tightly shut eyes immediately opened. That pair of eyes that seemed to contain countless swords and blades, incomparably cold and domineering, stared at Luo Qingtong's face. Then, in the next second, those dark sword lights instantly turned into countless flames that were incomparably hot. Bang! Yi Qianxian turned over and got up, pressing Luo Qingtong under his body. Try playing with fire again? The man's voice was indescribably hoarse and deep. Yi Qianxian's eyes were fixed on Luo Qingtong, and there seemed to be countless flames jumping in his eyes. All of the blood-red light and sword qi were burned to ashes. It also turned all his coldness into forbearing passion and heat. This woman really had to be taught a lesson. How much self-control did she think she had to be able to keep her composure in the face of his repeated temptations? Luo Qingtong smiled evilly when she heard this, and was about to say something when she put her arms around the man's neck. At this moment, a voice suddenly came in from outside, and the tone was very anxious. Not good, Lord Evil Doctor, quickly go and take a look. Old Master and Empress Dowager Yanxi are fighting. Pft! Suddenly hearing such a sentence, Luo Qingtong almost choked on her own saliva. Grandfather and Empress Dowager Yanxi? Hadn't their misunderstanding been resolved? How could they fight? Luo Qingtong thought so, and immediately rushed to the Great Chu Imperial Palace. Grandfather! Luo Qingtong rushed to the Empress Dowager's residence, and saw Old Master Luo being chased by Empress Dowager Yanxi with a sword. She immediately stepped forward, stopped Empress Dowager Yanxi, and asked, Grandmother, what are you doing? Ask him. Empress Dowager Yanxi's eyes were red, and she pointed her sword at Old Master Luo. Luo Tong, you actually hid the matter of Jinghong from me for so long. If I hadn't found out by myself today, were you going to continue hiding it from me? As soon as she said that, Luo Qingtong immediately knew what was going on. Was it because of her father? Luo Qingtong looked at Old Man Luo, who looked dejected. Ah, it's not that I want to hide it from you. But what? Are you afraid that I can't accept the fact that Jinghong is gone? Yes, I can't accept it. Luo Tong, this is how you raised my son for 40 years. You didn't even tell me that he was dead. Not only that, he didn't even set up a memorial tablet for them. Now you still want to continue hiding it from me. Empress Dowager Yanxi was obviously furious. Get lost. I'm not going to hold this wedding. I don't want to see you again. Cheer. Grandfather Luo panicked when he heard this. Listen to me. I really didn't mean to hide it from you. It's not that I don't want to set up memorial tablets for them. As he spoke, he stomped his foot and gritted his teeth. It's just that they aren't dead yet. Qingtong's parents aren't dead yet. What? Empress Dowager Yanxi was about to leave, but when she heard that, she immediately looked up at Old Master Luo. Luo Qingtong was also surprised. Grandpa, you mean my parents aren't dead? But if that was the case, then why did everyone say that her parents were dead? If it weren't for the fact that the Luo family didn't have a successor, the second branch wouldn't dare to be so arrogant. Luo Xining wouldn't have any ideas about her. Jing Huanwan. No. Oh. And the royal family of Tianyu. If it weren't for the death of Luo Qingtong's mother, why would they look down on Luo Qingtong and the Luo family? Chapter 830. AI. Old Master Luo sighed heavily. It's a long story. I didn't want to say it, but AI. He looked at Empress Dowager Yanxi helplessly. Originally, he wanted to find an opportunity in the future to slowly tell her about it. But Empress Dowager Yanxi missed her son and went to investigate, which led to today's incident. Old Master Luo sighed even harder as he thought about it. Let's go in and talk. The group of people entered the main hall that was in a mess. Empress Dowager Yan, she called people to clean up. Now that King Ning was dead, the entire Chu imperial family respected Empress Dowager Yanxi. When the two fought, no one dared to stop them. When Empress Dowager Yanxi flew into a rage, All the guards and maids who were responsible for serving the palace were reprimanded and retreated far away. Now that they heard Empress Dowager Yanxi's summons, they dared to come back and clean up the mess. After everything was cleaned up, Luo Qingtong, Old Master Luo, and Empress Dowager Yanxi sat together. Old Master Luo told them what happened in the past. Qingtong, your mother isn't an ordinary person. Old Master Luo's words were shocking. You also know that your mother cured UNMO, right? Because of this, the Tianyu imperial family painstakingly begged for you and UNMO to be engaged. At that time, your mother just wanted you to live a better life. That's why she agreed to the Tianyu imperial family's request. But she didn't expect them to be so cruel and unscrupulous. She also didn't expect that your mother and father would leave our Luo family one after another. Old Master Luo sighed. The reason why I told the outside world that your father and mother were dead was because your father told me to. Qingtong, you probably don't know, but your mother was actually an alchemist, and an extremely high-level one at that. She wasn't from our Sky Spill continent. When she and your father returned to the Luo family, her strength was almost exhausted. After having you, she did everything she could to protect you. Not long after she cured UNMO, she received a message from the outside world and left. Your father waited for her in the Luo family. When you were 2 years old, he also left the Luo family, saying that he was going to find her. Before he left, he told me that if he didn't return, I was to tell the outside world that they were dead. Otherwise, I'm afraid it would bring disaster to the Luo family. I wanted to raise Qingtong, so I did as he said. For so many years, there was no news as news. But before your father left, he left behind a jade pendant for you. Old Master Luo continued. He said that the jade pendant is linked to his life. As long as it doesn't break, he'll be fine. As for your mother's piece, it's with you, Wunma. Back then, it was left behind as a token of engagement between the two of you. As old Luo took as Luo said Luo Qingtong Luo took Luo. It was a translucent jade pendant. If Yuanma was here, he would realize that this jade pendant was a pair with the one around his neck. The two crescent-shaped jade pendants were connected from head to tail, forming a perfect circle. It little Luo Tian, the shape of the blood droplets was perfect. This jade pendant was left to you by your father. It is also your and Yuanmo's engagement token. Luo Qingtong's eyes narrowed. She knew about the engagement token between her and UNMO. She had wanted to wait until her engagement with UNMO was completely annulled before retrieving the engagement token. She didn't think that this engagement token would be the treasure that kept the original owner's mother alive. Chapter 831. However, UNMO didn't want to cancel the engagement no matter what. Was it related to this engagement token? Luo Qingtong thought, then quickly shook her head. It was for no other reason. At that time, Tianyu's imperial family was powerful. After learning that the original owner's mother had gone missing, they immediately turned hostile. From the looks of it, they could break off the engagement first, and then hide the engagement token. After all, they had given the engagement token. If they hadn't, then they hadn't. Why would they be afraid of what the Luo clan would say? With how UNMO didn't care about the original owner, he would probably agree with this approach. Therefore, he was determined not to break off the engagement. There should be other reasons. However, no matter what the reason was, it had nothing to do with Luo Qingtong. Just like how UNMO didn't care about the original owner, Luo Qingtong was the same. When the time came for the Empire of Qin's Holy Academy, UNMO would calmly accept the fact that the engagement was broken off and hand over the engagement token. Otherwise, he would be in for a good time. As Luo Qingtong thought about it, she smiled coldly. At this time, Empress Dowager Yanxi's voice sounded. Then you don't know where Jinghong and the others are? Her face was full of worry. Originally, Empress Dowager Yanxi thought that her beloved son was dead, so she was very angry. Now that her anger was gone, she couldn't help but worry. People outside the realm. Her son was actually related to people outside the realm. No wonder he told grandfather Luo that they were dead before he left. Her daughter-in-law's identity was extraordinary. Even if she crippled her cultivation to be with her son, She couldn't avoid disaster. That's why she ran away before. Thinking like this, Empress Dowager Yanxi's heart was filled with unspeakable worry. Luo Qingtong also looked at grandfather Luo. I only know that he went to find his daughter-in-law. However, his daughter-in-law is from outside the realm. It's not easy for her to leave the continent. I also don't know where Jinghong is now. How could grandfather Luo not be worried? However, he had Luo Qingtong to worry about. His son and daughter-in-law had entrusted their granddaughter to him, so he naturally had to take good care of her. Moreover, going to the outer realm wasn't a simple matter. Grandfather Luo didn't know how much his son had been hiding from him. And where was he going to find him? Is there no other way? Luo Qingtong looked at them and asked, Grandfather, don't you have any information about them? People from the outer realms. Even if Luo Qingtong wasn't too familiar with the matters of the Sky Spill continent, she still knew that the other side, that Yi Qianxian spoke of, was similar to Old Master Luo's words of beyond the mainland, confirmed her suspicions. It turned out that the Sky Spill continent wasn't the entire world. Outside of it, there was an even wider sky and even more experts. Luo Qingtong thought so. Her heart was boiling. I only know that your mother came from a place called Flying Feather. I don't know anything else. Grandpa Luo shook his head. When his daughter-in-law came to the Luo family, other than her medical skills, she had no strength at all. He was afraid of touching her sore spot, so he didn't ask. I know. At this moment, Empress Dowager Yanxi's voice sounded. Chapter 832. The Land of the Hidden World. In the main city of the Black Field, Luo Qingtong frowned as she thought about what Empress Dowager Yanxi had said. The Land of the Hidden World, even in the Sky Spill continent, was an extremely mysterious and powerful place. There are countless powerful hidden sects there. It is said that there is a realm above the Saint Realm, and the place with the most powerhouses that surpass the Saint Realm is the Land of the Hidden World. The powerhouses there don't often come out, but once they take a liking to you as a disciple, you will be able to step onto the path to heaven. The Yanyu family that you have a relationship with, their young master, Yanyu Ju, was taken in as a disciple by a powerhouse there. Empress Dowager Yanxi said, It is said that that is the only place that connects to the outside world. If you want to go to the outside world, you must first go to the Land of the Hidden World. As Luo Qingtong thought of this, she couldn't help but think of Yi Qianxian. If Yi Qianxian and the others came from the outside world, wouldn't they be very clear about the Land of the Hidden World? As Luo Qingtong thought of this, she came back to ask Yi Qianxian. However, the man's answer disappointed her. I didn't come in through the Land of the Hidden World. Yi Qianxian's expression was light. With his strength, if he wanted to enter the Sky Spill continent, why would he need to go through the Land of the Hidden World? Those people in the Hidden World had probably never even met him face to face. Why are you asking this? Yi Qianxian looked at her and frowned. With your current strength, it is not suitable for you to go outside the continent. This woman shouldn't do anything stupid. Only those above the Saint Realm had the qualifications to leave the continent. Otherwise, she wouldn't be able to withstand the rich and abundant spiritual energy outside. Naturally, Yi Qianren could protect her and walk around outside. However, it was impossible for him to be by Luo Qingtong's side all the time and protect her from the terrifying spiritual energy pressure from the outside world. Therefore, it was best for Luo Qingtong to cultivate to the Saint Realm before leaving the continent. Yes, Luo Qingtong nodded. I know. Hearing the slight nervousness in the man's words, she felt a little amused. Did she look like such a rash person? This man was really nervous about what? However, she didn't know that she had done so many shocking things that Yi Qianxian would inevitably think too much about it. Yes, wait until your strength increases in the future. There's no hurry. Yi Qianxian's eyes darkened as he gently stroked Luo Qingtong's hair. Is there any other way to get to the hidden world? Luo Qingtong looked at him and asked. Yes. Yi Qianxian narrowed his eyes. Half a year later, the 4 great saint academies will hold a grand meeting to decide the number 1 in the eastern region. At the same time, You will participate in the 4 regions competition and compete for a spot to enter the hidden world. At that time, the sects in the hidden world will head to the 4 regions to select the disciples they need to replenish their new blood. At that time, it will be the way for people below the Saint Realm to enter the hidden world. Yi Qianxian looked at her and said. Half a year later, Luo Qingtong looked at him and blinked. Wasn't that the date agreed upon by the Grand Dean of the Saint Academy of the Empire of Qin? When Luo Qingtong had asked for leave, the Grand Dean had agreed with her that no matter where Luo Qingtong was at that time, she had to rush to the Saint Academy of the Empire of Qin. Could it be because of this? If so, then it was no wonder that the Grand Dean insisted that she rush to the Saint Academy of the Empire of Qin at that time. It turned out that it was to have one more trump card. While Luo Qingtong was thinking about this, in the Saint Academy of the Empire of Qin. Chapter 833. That voice was filled with anger, as it rang out in front of the headmaster of the Grand Qin Sacred Academy. The dean raised his head and saw the figure standing in front of him. He was shocked. Great Elder, you're back? It was the Great Elder of the Saint Academy of the Empire of Qin. Humph. If I hadn't come back, I don't know what you and your master would have done to the Saint Academy of the Empire of Qin. The Great Elder of the Saint Academy said angrily. Let me ask you, what's the matter with that student called Luo Qingtong, and the group of students she brought with her? It's good enough that some of them can become Xian grade students. Your master even gave them the admission notice of heaven grade students. Isn't this an insult to the Saint Academy of the Empire of Qin? What's more infuriating is that Luo Qingtong. She asked for a leave of half a year to a year. What does she think the Saint Academy of the Empire of Qin is? Her family's back garden? She can come and go as she pleases? The Great Elder of the Saint Academy was furious. When he first heard the news, he couldn't believe it. He didn't believe that the Grand Dean and his disciple would insult the Saint Academy of the Empire of Qin like this. He didn't expect it to be true when he came back to the Saint Academy. How can you and your disciple face the past deans and ancestors of the Saint Academy of the Empire of Qin? The Great Elder of the Saint Academy was extremely angry. Somewhere in the Saint Academy of the Empire of Qin, Yu Wenma was drinking tea with a group of people beside him in a pavilion in the courtyard. Senior brother, that's a good move. A disciple of a big family from the Saint Academy of the Empire of Qin beside him said indifferently. I've asked the teacher to call the Great Elder back. With the Great Elder's temper, he'll definitely be furious about Luo Qingtong's leave of absence. At that time, he can take this opportunity to drive the Ling siblings out of the Saint Academy of the Empire of Qin. Yes. Another person sitting next to the student of the Empire of Qin said. The Great Elder is a person who upholds the rules of the Empire of Qin. He's very old-fashioned and stubborn. Back then, His Highness King Wu wanted to ask for a leave of absence from the Sacred Academy because of the breakthrough of the dragon energy in his body. It was the first elder who rejected his request. His Highness King Wu is a heaven-defying hero. Even under the suppression of the Crown Prince's true dragon strength, he was still able to rise up in a stunning manner and contend against His Highness. She's highly regarded by the imperial family, and even the Great Elder didn't give her any face. Now that I heard that Luo Qingtong took so many days off, it would be strange if I wasn't angry. Yes, Ling Tianhan and the rest probably thought that by using Luo Qingtong as a shield, senior brother would have some reservations. But I didn't think that Luo Qingtong was nothing to senior brother. Now that they're involved in Luo Qingtong's matter, it's certain that they'll be driven out of the Sacred Academy together. Otherwise, with Ling Tianhan's talent, we'd have to spend a lot of effort to deal with him. Moreover, we might not be able to drive them out of the Saint Academy of the Empire of Qin. The student of the Saint Academy of the Empire of Qin laughed as he spoke. He said to Yu Wenma, Senior brother, you're still the best. Haha, you're taking drastic measures to solve the problem once and for all. Ling Tianhan and the rest definitely didn't think that senior brother would have such a move. Yu Wenma listened with a faint smile on his face as he drank his tea. However, his eyes couldn't hide the arrogance and coldness in them. He only found out about the agreement between Luo Qingtong and the Grand Principal by chance. Chapter 834. He didn't know how Ling Tianhan and the rest managed to get the Grand Principal to agree to such a thing and grant Luo Qingtong so many days off. But it must have something to do with the evil Dr. Ghost Eye behind them. Since that was the case, he would help them to bring forward the deadline. Did they think that he would care about Luo Qingtong? What was that woman to him? She was just a tool to carry out his marriage contract and help him achieve his ambitions. Since she was so stupid to be used, he would just beat her at her own game. He would use her as a breakthrough point to drive Ling Tianhan and the rest out of the Sage Academy, even if Ling Tianhan was talented. So what if he was driven out of the Sage Academy of the Empire of Qin by the Grand Elder himself? Yuanma sneered. Su Jinyue, who was sitting next to him, also looked proud and happy. She had come up with this idea for Yuanma. She had wanted to test Yuanma's feelings for Luo Qingtong. After all, Yuanma had refused to break off the engagement. Su Jinyue admired Yuanma and naturally felt uneasy. Now she saw that Yuanma didn't care about Luo Qingtong at all and directly used her plan. He didn't care whether Luo Qingtong's future would be ruined after she was driven out of the Sage Academy of the Empire of Qin. Su Jinyue's heart was full of joy. Senior brother really didn't like Luo Qingtong. She thought that the Luo family must have used some despicable means to bind senior brother, so that he couldn't break off the engagement. In this way, things would be easy. Su Jinyue thought and smiled proudly and coldly in her heart. After Luo Qingtong was driven out of the Sage Academy of the Empire of Qin, she would ask her parents to take action and let Luo Qingtong know that a man like senior brother couldn't be restrained by the Luo family's means. If she knew what was good for her, she would voluntarily remove the restraints on senior brother and take the initiative to break off the engagement. There would be no more entanglement. Otherwise, Su Jinyue's eyes were full of arrogance and viciousness. Then don't blame her for being rude. Originally, Su Jinyue didn't take Luo Qingtong seriously. After all, how could the legitimate daughter of a marquis of a small inferior country compare to her? Yuanma's junior sister, a disciple of the holy court of the Empire of Qin? Even Su Jinyue deliberately asked her parents to give Luo Qingtong a place as a reward for the branch school. He sent Luo Qingtong to Yuanma's illustrious Tianyu branch and let her be abused by those Tianyu branch students who regarded Yuanma as a god, a peerless genius. At that time, he would just have to watch the show. Let's see how the first wife's daughter of a marquis from an inferior nation, who does not know the immensity of heaven and earth, would humiliate herself and realize the huge difference between her and Yuanma. Who would have thought that the other party would become the #1 disciple of the Tianyu Academy and come to the Empire of Qin Academy? Wasn't that purely to disgust people? No matter how much Su Jinyue disdained Luo Qingtong and looked down on her, she couldn't ignore the fact that the other party was Yuanma's fiancé. In particular, the Ling siblings used Luo Qingtong's name to mock her and Yuanma every time they saw her. Thinking of this, Su Jinyue's face was full of anger and resentment. However, it didn't matter. Luo Qingtong would soon be expelled from the holy court of the Empire of Qin, together with the Ling siblings. When that time came, he would definitely appear in front of them and taunt them as the victor. Let's see who would have the last laugh. Chapter 835. In the dean's office, the first elder of the Sacred Academy shouted angrily and ordered the dean of the Sacred Academy of the Empire of Qin. Now, immediately, expel Luo Qingtong and the students from Tianyu branch from the Saint Academy. The Sacred Academy of the Empire of Qin can't tolerate such a famous student. Even among the students of Tianyu branch who entered the Sacred Academy of the Empire of Qin with Luo Qingtong, there were some talented ones. But the rules and dignity of the Sacred Academy of the Empire of Qin couldn't be violated. He would expel all of these students and no one would be spared. It was a warning to others. No. As soon as the first elder of the Sacred Academy finished speaking, an angry shout came from outside the door. When the Grand Dean received the news that the first elder of the Sacred Academy had come back, he immediately knew that something bad had happened and hurried back. Otherwise, with his stupid disciple's temper, he wouldn't be able to stop the first elder of the Sacred Academy from getting angry. What the hell, Husky? Didn't the first elder of the Sacred Academy travel outside to make a breakthrough? Otherwise, the Grand Dean wouldn't have made an agreement with Luo Qingtong to take a vacation of half a year to a year. The first elder of the Sacred Academy was the most stubborn one, and he attached great importance to the rules of the Sacred Academy. The Grand Dean had quarreled with him many times because of these things. Now that he came back to take care of this matter, the Grand Dean suddenly had a headache. But even so, the Grand Dean couldn't give up Luo Qingtong. What a joke! She was the trump card that he had worked so hard to get. Not to mention other things. With Luo Qingtong's identity and strength, as the evil Dr. Ghost Eyes, who could compete with her in the entire pharmaceutical academy. The only one with potential, Su Xiaoxiao, was cultivated by Luo Qingtong himself. What's more, Luo Qingtong was also an alchemist. What was an alchemist? As long as Luo Qingtong was in charge of the Pharmaceutical Academy of the Sacred Academy, basically, no one in the Eastern region, or even the 4 regions, could be her match. That was an ironclad victory. Now the first elder of the Sacred Academy wanted to expel her? The Grand Dean wouldn't do it even if he was beaten to death. What's more, the Grand Dean had secretly inquired about what Luo Qingtong had done in the imperial palace of the Great Chu Sacred Dynasty. Luo Qingtong completely crushed Princess Fingyuan's strength and talent at the same cultivation level. If he wanted to push Luo Qingtong out of the Saint Academy, he would be a huge fool. Luo Qingtong's Strength Academies? The first elder of the Sacred Academy. The rules of the Sacred Academy's rules is rules. However, as long as the student has sufficient strength and talent, and it doesn't affect their own cultivation, then what's wrong with taking some leave? The first elder of the Sacred Academy interrupted the Grand Dean angrily. Zhu Yi, you are twisting words and forcing logic. The first elder of the Sacred Academy was furious. He slammed his palm on the desk in front of him, splitting the extremely hard desk into 2 halves in an instant. He said angrily, there was a precedent of this in the Sacred Academy. It was above the legendary dean. That legendary dean's strength was unparalleled. He was the strongest in the history of the Sacred Academy. No one could compare to him. When he was a student, he once took a year's leave. His strength rose from the initial Martial King realm to the peak of the Martial King realm, close to the Martial Royal realm. His strength growth was unparalleled. He didn't lose to the top heaven-grade students of the Sacred Academy. Later, he won the title of Sacred Seed. Chapter 836. The first elder of the Saint Academy sneered. Don't say I'm heartless. 3 days later, it'll be a 3-month holiday. As long as Luo Qingtong can come back in time and improve her strength by a small level. According to her information, she was at the medium level of the Martial King realm, right? It's ridiculous that a small branch dares to claim that it has such a strong student. The first elder of the Saint Academy sneered and squinted at the highest dean. She was certain that the latter had done something, so that the student named Luo Qingtong could have the right to apply for leave. Unfortunately, the highest dean would soon reveal his true colors in front of him. I don't want her to improve her strength too much. As long as she can reach the high level of the Martial King realm, I'll admit that her leave is valid. Otherwise, I'll kick her and the group of people around her out of the Saint Academy of the Empire of Qin. The Saint Academy of the Empire of Qin doesn't accept students who are opportunistic and don't want to learn. They only know how to rely on connections. The first elder of the Saint Academy left the dean's office angrily. Looking at the first elder's back, the dean of the Saint Academy of the Empire of Qin looked at the highest dean. What do you think? The highest dean was having a headache. He was not afraid that Luo Qingtong's strength could not meet the requirements of the first elder of the Saint Academy. It was known that the girl had taken the opportunity to break through to the Martial Royal realm when she was fighting with Princess Feng Luan in the imperial palace of the Chu Sacred Dynasty. Otherwise, How could the highest dean be so confident to argue with the first elder of the Saint Academy? Of course, he was confident that Luo Qingtong's strength would shock everyone when she came back. At that time, the highest dean could not blame him for granting her so many days of leave. But speaking of which, that girl was really too abnormal. When the highest dean granted Luo Qingtong the days of leave, he did not expect that her strength would improve so rapidly. She improved much faster than those heaven-grade students in the Saint Academy. It would save him the trouble of explaining these vacations in the future. However, he didn't expect that the first elder of the Saint Academy would come back at this time. Moreover, he had been back for a long time. He was furious about Luo Qingtong's leave. It was as if someone had specifically told him about this matter and called him back to make things difficult for him. What made the Grand Dean even more worried was that he didn't know how to contact Luo Qingtong. Would it be more convenient to send the message to Blackfield or to the Great Chu Sacred Dynasty? 3 days was enough to drive someone to death. The first elder of the Sacred Academy didn't want Luo Qingtong to come back at all, so he put forward such a condition. Furthermore, the reason why he said that he wanted to raise his strength was just to diss the Grand Principal and embarrass the latter. He never thought that Luo Qingtong would be able to come back in time. In 3 days, unless Luo Qingtong had the best spiritual ship, or happened to be near the holy capital of the Empire of Qin, she would never be able to rush back to the Saint Academy of the Empire of Qin in time. However, if Luo Qingtong was near the holy capital of the Empire of Qin, would she still need to ask for leave? As for the best spiritual ship, it was even more impossible. With her identity as the legitimate daughter of a low-level marquis, it was already a great thing to have a profound-level ship. She might not even have one, not to mention a supreme-grade flying boat. The first elder of the Sacred Academy didn't have one himself. How could that student named Luo Qingtong have one? The first elder of the Sacred Academy thought so, and was sure that Luo Qingtong would be expelled in 3 days. At that time, even their group of students would be expelled. Chapter 837. Immediately send this news to the Blackfield. The Grand Principal thought about it, and still felt that it was safer to send it to the Blackfield. With the importance that the Blackfield's Ming Zun attached to that girl, even if that girl ran to some unknown place, the chances of him being able to contact her were higher than ordinary people. Although according to the general situation, Luo Qingtong should be in Great Chu at this time. But that girl never played by the rules. The Grand Principal had a headache thinking about it. That girl had better not run off to some unknown place at this time. Otherwise, she would not be able to make it back in time. At that time, it would be troublesome. At the same time, he immediately began to investigate the matter of the great elder of the Holy Court, to see who had invited this great Buddha back to slap his face. In the Great Chu Sacred Dynasty, Luo Qingtong still did not know about this. The preparations for Grandfather Luo and Empress Dowager Yan Shi's wedding were almost done. This time, it was the Empress Dowager's remarriage. Although she had obtained the consent of the Great Chu imperial family and that transcendent saint, it was not a particularly glorious thing. For the sake of the Great Chu imperial family's face, Empress Dowager Yan Shi's wedding was not wantonly arranged. The guests invited were also limited to the major forces and families of the Great Chu Sacred Dynasty. But all the guests who received the invitation were jubilant. Not for anything else, but this time, the Blackfield's Ming Zun had confirmed that he would come to Empress Dowager Yan Shi's wedding. And the evil Dr. Ghost Eye, who was popular in the Blackfield, and even in the 4 great sacred dynasties, also said that he would bring gifts to congratulate. Who knew how many people were secretly happy to be able to see these 2 great Buddhas in their lifetime? Especially the Blackfield's Ming Zun. His power was boundless and his strength was at the peak of perfection, unparalleled. He had single-handedly established the Blackfield, causing the 4 great sacred dynasties to have no choice but to retreat. With such honor, ordinary people would be honored to even hear his name, let alone be able to see him. In the Eastern Domain, those who could see him were all formidable and peerless existences. Only the absolute powerhouses of the Saint Plain would be able to meet him. Now that he said that he would attend Empress Dowager Yan Shi's wedding, it naturally attracted people like a flock of ducks. Even if this wedding did not invite everyone, it was already the center of attention. The eyes of the 4 sacred dynasties were all focused on the wedding, not to mention the other 3 regions. Rumble. Countless cannon salutes sounded all around the Chu dynasty's sacred capital. Amidst the waves of cannon salutes, one spirit boat after another poured into the holy capital from all directions. Countless cannons were fired, and on those spirit ships, experts from various forces stood with their hands behind their backs, surrounded by congratulatory gifts. Flags fluttered in the air. Seeing the name of the faction embroidered on it, the surrounding crowd exclaimed from time to time. Each and every one of them was a famous power within the borders of Great Chu, and even outside of Great Chu. Some of the superpowers that didn't receive an invitation also sent congratulatory gifts to congratulate Ming Zun after learning that he was going to attend the wedding. This was the deterrence that Yi Qianming, a Blackfield Dark Lord, possessed in the true Spill continent. Just a single name, a single sentence, was enough to shake the entire true Spill continent. After receiving the invitation from Old Man Luo, everyone from the Feng family came to the Chu dynasty's sacred capital. Seeing such a lively scene around them, and confirming Old Man Luo's name again and again, the group still felt as if they were in a dream. Chapter 838. A daughter should be like Luo Qingtong. The Luo family's Qingtong is a natural dragon. The Luo family's old master sighed. Yes, the Luo family's people also sighed. A year ago, who would have thought that the Luo family and Luo family's old master would have such good fortune? Luo Qingtong's rise had really changed their fate, and the Luo family's fate. The Luo family's people rushed to the Chu palace. At this moment, a voice suddenly came from the side of the road. Luo Miao Miao? With this voice, the Luo family's people immediately looked to the side. With this look, their faces immediately turned cold. They saw a young man in a luxurious robe looking at them in surprise. Then his brows furrowed. He looked at the Luo family's people and said very impolitely, "Why are you here? This is the holy capital of Chu, not a place you can come." The man's expression was very impatient. "I don't know how you found your way here, but I already said before that Luo Miao Miao and I were just playing. With my status, how can a trash family like your Luo family be worthy of me? Don't think that you can do anything just because you found your way here. As long as I want, your Luo family can forget about leaving the holy capital of Chu." The man's expression was very arrogant. The Luo family's people were furious when they heard this. This was a scumbag who had once deceived Luo Miao Miao. Back then, after swearing an oath of eternal love and deceiving Luo Miao Miao with flowery words, he lost her in the blink of an eye. He even said in public that he was just playing with Luo Miao Miao. How could the latter's status be worthy of him? Luo Miao Miao was Luo Haren's cousin. Because of this, she almost killed herself. Who would have thought that the lover she loved so much was such a disgusting person? And because of this, she brought so much humiliation and disgust to the Luo family. When Luo Miao Miao was with him, she didn't know his identity at all, let alone who he was. She fell for him just because of her passion. Who knew that he was such a person? "Alright, you Luo family's people, hurry up and get lost. Don't disturb us going to the wedding banquet. If you dare to cause trouble, I won't let you out of the holy capital." The man scolded the family. "What right do you have to tell us to scram? We are also here to attend the wedding banquet." The Si family members were furious, especially Si Miao Miao, who was at the end of her patience. "Ha!" The man looked at them and said with contempt, "You want to attend the wedding banquet in the palace? Ran Miao Miao, are you deliberately trying to cause trouble?" As he spoke, a middle-aged man who was obviously the head of his family walked over. After hearing what happened here, he immediately frowned and said coldly, "What's the point of telling them so much? Just break his legs and throw him out. Don't you know where you are? What kind of family do you think our Hu clan is? How dare you cause trouble here?" As he spoke, he scolded the man. And you stop fooling around outside all day long. You want all kinds of trash. Don't you find trash from an inferior country dirty? When he said that, everyone from the Sea clan was so angry that their faces turned pale. They almost wanted to fight with their lives on the line. At this moment, a group of Hua family guards also surrounded them. All of them were emitting the aura of martial emperors. They looked at the Chu clan members, as if they were looking at a bunch of corpses. Chapter 839. Grandpa see uncles, why are you here? Luo Qingtong was dressed in red, like a fiery red lotus, standing behind the Sea family. She had just come out of the Chu imperial palace. She saw the Sea family surrounded by the Hua family's guards and immediately walked over. Luo girl. Seeing Luo Qingtong, the Sea family's faces were filled with joy, especially the old master of the Sea family. He was so excited that he couldn't speak. Sister Qingtong. When the Sea family's juniors saw Luo Qingtong, it was as if they saw their savior. The Hua family had gone too far. Relying on the fact that they were a large family in the holy capital, not only did they toy with Sea Miao's feelings, but they also wanted to drive them out of the holy capital. Why? They were also here to attend the imperial palace's banquet. Even if they weren't, the Hua family couldn't be so overbearing and domineering. Sister Qingtong. They bullied us and wanted to break our legs and drive us out of the holy capital. The Sea family's juniors didn't know Luo Qingtong's true identity, but it was true that old Master Luo had become the Grand Duke of the Chu imperial palace. Luo Qingtong's status was definitely not low, and she definitely had a certain amount of prestige in the Chu imperial palace. They didn't expect Luo Qingtong to be able to do anything to the Hua family, but it would be good enough if she could save them from the humiliation at this moment. The Hua family had really gone too far. They gritted their teeth and recounted what had just happened, hearing that the other party had cheated on Sea Miao's feelings, and was afraid that they would cause trouble, and wanted to break their legs and throw them out of the Chu imperial palace. Luo Qingtong immediately raised her eyebrows. The Hua family? Yes, the Hua family's manager had a face full of pride. When Luo Qingtong appeared just now, he was afraid that they had provoked a disciple of a large faction in the holy capital. Now it seemed that he had no impression of her age and appearance, so she couldn't be a disciple of a large faction in the Chu imperial palace. Then she must be from outside, and those factions outside of the Chu that were qualified to send congratulatory gifts were all super factions, and the envoys they sent were mostly Saint Realm experts. This girl definitely couldn't be one of them. They must be from other commanderies and cities of Great Chu. At the thought of this, the Hua clan's head laughed disdainfully. Those outside might be powerful in their commandery, but in front of the forces of the holy capital, they were nothing, especially when their Hua family was following Empress Dowager Yin Shi. However, the fact that the Ji family was able to find the holy capital was very likely due to the help of the power behind this young girl. What's more, they wanted to use my family to achieve something. Unfortunately, he wouldn't let them have their way. With this thought in mind, the Hua clan's leader looked at Luo Qingtong with even more disdain and coldness. I don't care what your intentions are. Get out of my sight right now. The disciples of the Hua clan of the holy capital aren't people you can associate with. As soon as he finished speaking, before Luo Qingtong could say anything, the Hua clan disciple next to him looked at Luo Qingtong with a covetous gaze and said, "Of course, if Miss is willing to be with me, it's not a big deal even if I take you and Ji Miao in as my concubine." The Hua clan disciple looked at Luo Qingtong with shining eyes. The latter's face was absolutely beautiful, her temperament languid and domineering, charming and seductive, making his heart itch. If she was willing to be with him, so what if he took Ji Miao in as a concubine? Chapter 840. Oh. Luo Qingtong looked at the Hua family disciple with a faint smile. What if I don't want to? Then we may not let you go today. The Hua family disciple had obviously been bewitched by the faint smile on Luo Qingtong's face. She was just a disciple of a foreign force. So what if she was from a certain commandery's royal family? Who didn't know about the slightly powerful commandery's royal family and disciples of forces in the Great Chu sacred dynasty. Among them, there was absolutely no figure of this girl. Immediately, the Hua family disciple became lustful. In any case, the holy capital of the Chu dynasty was their territory. Even if they took the girl by force, who could do anything to them? The Hua family disciple said, looking at Luo Qingtong with more and more lustful eyes. The Hua family's manager watched from the side and didn't make a sound. She was just a girl. So what if his nephew played with her? Anyway, with their status in the holy capital, not many forces dared to do anything to them. Shameless. Seeing that the Hua family people were still thinking about Luo Qingtong, the Ran family people became anxious. Do you know who she is? You dare to have ideas about her. Especially Ran Miao Miao, who was even more furious. She couldn't imagine that the person she had taken a fancy to was such a disgusting and immoral person. Haha, I don't care who she is. Our Hua family is the followers of Empress Dowager Yan Shi. We are the family under Empress Dowager Yan Shi. Now that Empress Dowager Yan and Empress Dowager Yan are married, the latter has the black field behind her. You know the black field, right? There is no one I can't provoke. The disciple of the Hua clan laughed out loud. The Hua family manager also sneered at the side. The Hua family guards around them roared with laughter. With the Hua family's power behind Empress Dowager Yan Shi, as long as the latter didn't fall, what did their Hua family have to be afraid of? Ran Miao Miao's words were simply ridiculous. She probably didn't know what a big family in the holy capital meant. Hearing his words, the Ran family people's faces turned pale. The Hua family was the family behind Empress Dowager Yan Shi? With Empress Dowager Yan Shi's support? In that case, wouldn't they be in trouble? Even Luo Qingtong couldn't stop them. After all, she was only old Master Luo's granddaughter. Even if she recognized Empress Dowager Yan Shi as her grandmother, she might not be able to compare to the Hua family. Thinking of this, the Feng family panicked. They didn't know Luo Qingtong's true identity, and only thought that they had implicated Luo Qingtong. So they hurriedly said, Qingtong, leave now. Hua clan, you're shameless. This is between the Si family and the Hua family. Don't drag others into this. Humph. I told you to scram, but you didn't. Now all of you can stay here. The Hua clan's disciple sneered and looked at Luo Qingtong with an evil gaze. Men, he said proudly, invite this young lady into the Hua family. When I return from the banquet, I will reward you handsomely. A group of Hua family guards obeyed the order and approached Luo Qingtong maliciously. The latter's expression was indifferent as she stood there without moving. I was still thinking about how to deal with you. Now, I don't need to think about it anymore. Luo Qingtong looked coldly at the group of Hua family people in front of her. The Hua family doesn't need to stay. Haha. The Hua family disciple heard this and laughed even more wildly. You said the Hua family doesn't need to stay. Little girl, who do you think you are? As soon as he finished speaking, a voice suddenly cried out in surprise. You're tuning in to the Li Mei Sword of Destiny YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.